Hello everyone and welcome back to the Zelda Realm YouTube channel. My name is Joe and as always it's so great for you to be with me in this week's video. We are back with the discussion videos. Every Sunday you can expect me to sit down with some honest opinions, some reviews, some lore, whatever that looks like. Always here on a Sunday afternoon on YouTube, so please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I've got two goals to reach. We want to try and reach 500 subs before the Switch 2 releases on the 5th of June. And then when we reach 1000 subscribers, I will be releasing a Tears of the Kingdom retrospective, work of which is well underway with the script. So you don't want to miss out on that, guys. Please do subscribe. This week, I want to talk to you about a conversation that I've been considering and thinking about for a while now, and I'm going to ask the question: does Breath of the Wild signify the death of traditional Zelda games? Let's talk about it. So if I'm being honest with myself, if I'm being honest with you, Breath of the Wild didn't just shake up the Zelda formula. It completely tore it wide open and changed it. And personally, I think it changed it for the better. I think Zelda has become the ultimate exploration, curiosity, action, storytelling, narrative adventure that Nintendo have been crying out for. This is where they really achieve the top ranks of the AAA space. Games like Mario, they exist, I think, in their own kind of sphere. But now we saw with Breath of the Wild how other games like Elden Ring have talked about that game as their inspiration. And I think it just brings that right into mainstream gaming in a way that Zelda has never done so before. When I'm talking about the traditional games, I'm specifically talking about the 3D titles from Ocarina of Time through to Skyward Sword. They are what I believe to be kind of the 3D traditional. I want to caveat this whole video by saying I do not think the top-down 2D traditional will ever go. I think that will be the kind of filler game in between mainline releases that satisfies people to be a new Zelda release without being the behemoth that is Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. But I do think that the age of 3D traditional titles is dead. You may be watching this video and you maybe have absolutely no idea what I mean by a 3D traditional, because Breath of the Wild was your first game, Tears of the Kingdom was your second game, and you haven't played the others. Can I just implore you, if you haven't played some of the original 3D titles, go and play them. They are some of the best experiences in gaming. And I think Ocarina of Time is one of the greatest games ever made. But what is the traditional structure? So, traditionally, Zelda was structured along a very linear path where the story went from A to B. Every single person that played the game had the exact same experience. It went from A to B to C to D to E to F to G. And me here in Northern Ireland would have the same experience as you in the United States of America. It would not change. Every playthrough would look the same. You would go from dungeon to dungeon, dungeons of course being the main gameplay loop where you'd go through different rooms, you'd have to find keys to unlock doors. Every dungeon would have a new item to find. That item would therefore then need to be used to defeat the dungeon boss. It's the structure that's been known for Zelda since its very, very beginning. Of course, with the 3D games coming in from 1998, they have followed that structure up until Breath of the Wild. And that structure, trust me, works brilliantly. Some of the best Zelda experiences are in those, and I think there are some people who are watching this video who firmly believe that these traditional 3D structures are significantly better than the Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom package for certain things. And to be honest, I think I would agree with those people. However, Breath of the Wild took the genre, took the franchise to another level. It allowed us to experience what I believe was the original vision of The Legend of Zelda, where exploration and curiosity went above everything else. If you think about Hyrule, you think about the fact that as you come up from that cave, that Shrine of Resurrection, and you look out to the land, the fact that everything you can see, you can go to, that was a level of exploration that we had never seen in Zelda. And to be honest, I just could not get over the freshness that brought and how imaginative so much of the world was and how much there was to do. Now, the separate issue comes in Tears of the Kingdom, where because the same world was reused, I think that sense of discovery and exploration was lost ever so slightly. However, there are still plenty of moments where you're playing Tears of the Kingdom and you have to audibly gasp at something that you discover out of nowhere. The caves that were introduced, the depths and the sky islands, there were things there that still brought that same feeling. And I don't think the 3D games, the traditional games I should say, bring that same level of awe and wonder and discovery as the kind of newer approach in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. One of the weakest points for the open world era of Zelda is the dungeon design and the storytelling. So these are the two things I think we need to see addressed if this is to be like the perfect future for Zelda. So the dungeon design in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is frankly poor. I think they rely so much on the fact that we have such, I want to say, total freedom to explore that they don't serve any there's no difficulty spike in dungeon. If you think about the traditional games, each dungeon you'd go into would get progressively harder because everybody's following the same path. In Breath of the Wild, to be frank, we didn't even get traditional dungeons. We got divine beasts that were okay in execution, really, really underwhelming, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't feel that the boss choice was good. It was essentially 4 iterations of the same boss, and that was it. The other thing is that the storytelling is not good, so the problem with giving the player ultimate freedom of where they go means that you sacrifice the linearity of storytelling, and we saw that most in Tears of the Kingdom, and I've talked about that until I'm blue in the face about how it just didn't work. The mystery doesn't work if you can skip parts of it and then go back to it and all that stuff. So for me, if we're going to do the open world thing, which I think they will be doing over and over again, it needs to be told in a similar way to the best open world games, like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example. That story is told from an A to B format, but you are free to go and explore however you choose. That, for me, that's the best way to do this. But I think it would be totally remiss to ignore the impact that this open world era of games has had, not just on the franchise of Zelda, but on the gaming industry as a whole. For Zelda itself, it has brought incredible growth to the franchise. We have seen Zelda soar in popularity since Breath of the Wild released. I don't think I'd be sitting here making this video if I didn't believe that there was an audience of people who were willing to hear these things about Zelda, and up until Breath of the Wild, to me, that wouldn't have been an option. But since the numbers have increased, there's more appetite and scope to hear about Zelda, and that's just the facts. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have brought so many new people to this wonderful and amazing game, and I'm so glad that we've seen that. For those who are in the traditional camp, I feel the pain. I understand how you're feeling. You would want to see the traditional games come back, and for me, I firmly would like to see there be a mix. I would like to see kind of an open world game followed by a traditional game, and so forth and so on. This video is me saying I don't think that's going to happen. This isn't what I want to happen. This is what I think is going to happen. I think if we look at the vision of Aonuma, of Miyamoto, it was always about making sure that Zelda was about exploration and discovery. And I think the best way that they achieve that is through this open world era of games. And this might be highly controversial, what I'm about to say, but I really would prepare for an Ocarina of Time remake, if one is coming, to lean into those more open elements. We could see a more open structure. I'm not saying that we'll lose the dungeons, because they are the best part of the game. I'm not saying we're going to lose the characters or the story or any of that stuff, but I just wouldn't be surprised if there was a hybrid role brought into this remake, this rumoured remake that we don't even know if it's happening. And I think that's the closest thing we'll see to a traditional 3D release, to be honest. My feeling is that the success of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is too good to overlook and too good to miss. And I think the Zelda team have got themselves in a position now where they feel the expectation of the casual fan and the general audience is for Zelda to be an open world franchise. And that's the world we live in. Me personally, I would like to see a mix. I don't necessarily want to see open world Zelda all the time. I don't want to lose the dungeons and the storytelling that we get from the traditional games. Say what you like about Skyward Sword, for example. The linearity in that was too much, too restrictive, but the story was absolutely fantastic. And I think if they could find a way to achieve a Skyward Sword type story and game with the more open structure of Breath of the Wild, that is the perfect balance of new Zelda game. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below your opinions. I'd be so interested to know where you stand on the 3D traditional versus open world bracket, because I think it's one of those conversations that continues to repeat itself over and over and over again when we're talking about Zelda. As for the future, we know we've got the Switch 2 coming out in 3 weeks' time. We know that from there we have Age of Imprisonment, the Hyrule Warriors game, coming out. I don't expect that we'll know anything new until 2026. So, for now guys, we're just going to have to sit and wait. Thanks so much for watching this video. I've been the Zelda Realm, and I'll be back next week with 2 videos. The reaction to Hero's Purpose Episode 5 on Wednesday, and another discussion video next Sunday. So until then, I'll see you soon.